I never believed in fate. Not really. I was the kind of man who believed in schedules, in deadlines, in the reassuring tick of a clock. Life to me was a series of lines on a calendar and meetings in a planner. If something went wrong, it was usually because I had failed to organize it properly. But love doesn't run on a timetable. I learned that the night I missed a train, it had been a long day at the office. Numbers blurred into each other, emails piled up. And when I finally looked at the clock, I realized I had only 5 minutes to make it to the station. I grabbed my briefcase, sprinted through the streets, heart hammering. I could already hear the train pulling in as I reached the platform. I ran faster, too fast. My shoelace, loose from the morning, betrayed me. I stumbled, swore, and in that single second, the train doors closed. I stood there, panting, furious at myself. That's when I noticed her. She was leaning against a pillar, completely absorbed in a book. Her hair, a cascade of copper, caught the dull yellow light above. She hadn't even looked up when the train left. She was smiling faintly, as if she knew something the rest of us didn't. "You missed it too?" I asked, still catching my breath. She looked up, and in that moment, my world shifted. Her eyes were the kind of green you don't forget, like spring after a long winter. "No," she said, closing the book softly. "I was waiting for this one." It was such a simple reply, but it disarmed me completely. There I was, frustrated about being late, and she was calm, content, almost as though she trusted life enough to wait. The next train came. I don't know why, but I sat near her. Not next to her, that felt too bold, but close enough that I could start a conversation if courage decided to show up. Eventually, I asked about her book. It turned out she wasn't just reading. She was sketching, filling the margins with little drawings of people she noticed on the platform. She showed me one, a quick, clever sketch of me, tie crooked, shoelace undone. I laughed. "You caught me perfectly." She grinned. "That's because you look like a man trying to outrun time." Her name was Claire. She was an artist working part-time at a gallery and painting late into the nights. She said she loved trains because they were like stories. You never knew who you'd meet, but every passenger was heading somewhere. By the time we reached her stop, I didn't want her to leave. So I asked nervously, "Do you take this train often?" "Only when I missed the one before it," she said with a wink. And then she was gone, leaving me staring at the empty seat beside me. Over the next week, I found myself missing my train more and more often. Once it was deliberate. Twice it was chance. By the third time I admitted it to myself, I wanted to see her again. And I did. We began to talk more, first in fragments on the train, then over coffee. Coffee turned into dinners, dinners into long walks along the river. I learned that she hated small talk but loved thunderstorms, that she painted to music and danced when she cooked. She learned that beneath my neat suits and schedules, I was a man terrified of wasting time. One evening, while we sat on a bench at the station, she said, "You know what I like about you? You make the world feel steady." I looked at her, startled. "I always thought I was boring." She laughed, touching my hand. You're an anchor. I float all over the place. You keep me grounded." I can't explain how happy that made me. Love, I realized, isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's a quiet certainty, the way her head fit on my shoulder, or the way her laughter filled the silences I didn't know existed in my life. A year passed, and then came the night she told me about Florence. We were in my apartment, her brushes and paint scattered across my desk. She looked nervous, twisting her fingers together. "I've been offered an artist residency," she said finally. 6 months. In Italy, my heart sank. I forced a smile. "That's incredible." "It is," she said softly, "but it means being away. From you." I wanted to tell her not to go, that I needed her, that my life without her felt unimaginable. But I saw the light in her eyes when she spoke about it, and I couldn't take that away from her. "I don't want to lose you," I whispered. "You won't," she promised, pressing her forehead to mine. "If we found each other once by missing a train, we'll find each other again." She left. At first we wrote constantly. Real letters, not emails. She said ink carried more of the soul. Each envelope was a gift. A sketch of the Tuscan hills, a pressed flower from a piazza, even a wine stain shaped like a heart. But slowly the letters grew fewer. Calls became shorter, sometimes missed altogether. I told myself she was busy, but doubt gnawed at me. Then the letters stopped. I waited. A week, two, a month. Nothing. Nights were the hardest. I'd find myself at the station where we first met, staring at the tracks, hoping she would appear again, sketchbook in hand. But the bench stayed empty. I began to wonder if I had only been a chapter in her story, not the whole book. 6 months later, a letter arrived. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a plane ticket to Florence. On the back, in her handwriting, was a single line. Sometimes you have to miss the train to find where you're meant to go. Come find me. I didn't hesitate. I was on the next flight. Florence was alive with art and sunlight. I found her in a studio standing before a massive canvas. Her hands were smeared with color, her eyes alight with passion. She turned, saw me, and smiled as though no time had passed at all. "You came," she whispered. "Of course I did," I said. "I've been waiting for this train." She laughed through tears, dropping the brush and running into my arms. That night we walked through cobblestone streets hand in hand. She told me she hadn't stopped loving me. She had simply been lost in her work, afraid I wouldn't understand. I told her that love isn't about holding someone so tight they can't breathe. It's about giving them space to grow and trusting that your paths will cross again. As the bells of Florence rang midnight, I realized something. I don't know if fate exists, but I do know this. I missed a train once, and it led me to the love of my life. And if that isn't fate, I don't know what is.